So, we just got back from Dollar Tree. And, again, no TP. Talked to the lady in there. She said that they were unloading it yesterday, and as they were unloading it off the truck, a woman was taking it off of their unloading racks and putting it in her car. Why stock up on TP? Well, according to some information I was just told, granted, again, I don't know how valuable how good this information is, but it says that some of the factories across seas have shut down their TP factories. Okay, we still make TP here. A lot of the big brands and a lot of the off brands are made in America. So we're not going to get a shortage of butt wipe paper, guys. I made a joke last night to one of my coworkers. We could always go back to the redneck way and use a corn cob. Or, if you run out of TP, you absolutely have to shit. After you're done, take a shower. I mean, yeah, I know it's dirty, but hey, it works. On a side note, babe, we need to go get some laundry detergent. We're almost out. Well, they're closing Walmart at 11. We might as well get it when we can. I don't plan on getting out anymore today. Yeah, what do you want to eat? Well, you decide. Anyways. Since this is Sunday, another Sunday special should come. So it's going to happen. Let's see, last Sunday we talked about Moses. We talked about Noah's Ark. Well, I say we, but I mean I. So this time, let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Let's talk about a 5'6" Jew who couldn't speak a lick of English, but supposedly died for all of our sins. I know, ain't I a prick? Anyway. Supposedly, 2,020 years ago, a young Jew was born. He grew up performing miracles, walking on water, turning water to wine, feeding thousands with a loaf of bread, healing the blind by spitting on mud and rubbing it in my face. I'm sorry, but if that happened to anybody today, if someone spit on mud and rubbed it in your face, you'd punch him in the mouth. It's like, I hope you cure my blindness, because when you do, I could see you enough to punch you. And spit on mud and rub it in my face, you asshole. Anyways. Everybody says he was meek. He was meek and mild and all that. He wasn't. He was a dick. If he was real.
I don't think so. They'll be there.
He told men to leave their families and their kids and all their belongings and follow him, and they'd be the righteous ones on their way to seeing God. He told this to a lot of men. So, obviously he wasn't a good guy if he's telling you to leave your families. This is the thing that always got to me. In the story of Bethlehem, people brought him diamonds and jewels and all this. Yet when he grew up and he was walking around Bethlehem, everybody said he was poor just like the rest of us. There's no way. I mean, what happened to all that gold? What happened to all those diamonds? Did his parents just swindle it all? And if Jesus was indeed God's son, he couldn't have been the son of David. Which means that none of the Bible would have, none of those prophecies that they try to put through were even true. Because if he was the son of God, he wouldn't have had a biological father. David would not have been his biological father. Or David? No, was that Mary and David? Mary and Mark? Something like that. Anyway. Yeah.
You mean Joseph?
Yeah, Joseph. But Joseph was supposedly a descendant of David. That's true, just saying.
That's what my mom, she said don't even try Dylan's.
Anyway. I'm just cruising right now. Anyway. We have this Jew who died at the age of 33, which is where the Freemasons got their 33rd degree. We have so many excerpts in the Bible that were taken out showing Jesus is just a normal person. He was just a teacher. Most likely, if Jesus was real, which Jesus was a very common name, so there's plenty of Jesuses back then for one. If Jesus was a real person, the son of David Jesus, or the son of Joseph Jesus, if you will. A lot of people don't understand that his mother would have been 14. Because back then, women didn't have a choice. It's just like in the Middle East now, women don't have a choice. You're married into families. For political gain. Either one family is trying to make the other family richer, or something. Basically, your daughter is a pawn. That's why in the Middle East, men are supposedly superior to women, just like it is in the Bible. You can't out-devout a Muslim. You know, these guys pray like 5 or 6 times a day. And everybody's like, I wish it was like it was back then. No, you don't. If Jesus came back today, none of these Christians that call themselves Christians would even be anywhere near righteous for him. For one, you have too many possessions. 2, you covet everything you see. 3, you most likely had sex before marriage. 4, you treat your daughter like an equal. And 5, if your kid tells you no, most parents don't even spank their kids anymore. I got bitch smacked if I said no. You know, I was raised on the ass whooping. The kids of today's society are not. Instead of being parents, people are just trying to be best friends. You know, oh, you're my best friend. You know, oh, do you want to go out to the movies? Did you just want to? No, your kids are supposed to fear and respect you. They're not supposed to be your best friend. They're supposed to look to you for advice when they need it, and you're supposed to teach these kids how to live on their own. None of these kids today would have any idea how to live on their own. They think they do, but they don't. You know, these kids think everything's going to be handed to them because it has been their whole lives. No. On a side note, you see all these Christians and Catholics walking around with a crucifix on their neck. Crucifix was, according to the Bible anyway, was the nail in the coffin, no pun intended, on Jesus' death. It was what made Jesus divine because he supposedly came back in 3 days. Again, if Jesus came back and saw everybody walking around with a crucifix on their neck, you really think he'd be happy about that? You're literally glorifying the fact that he sacrificed himself. You know, everybody's like, oh, well, you know, I don't believe in heathen religions because they sacrifice goats and sheep. Yet, in your religion, one man literally sacrificed himself, that's why they call him the Lamb, for everybody else's sins. So, you guys glorify sacrifice just as much as these guys do. So, you have no reason to talk. You want to go to TJ's in the mall?
Is it open?
It should be. Anyway, yeah, you're glorifying sacrifice. Whether you believe it or not, that's what you're doing. Oh, he sacrificed himself for our sins. He didn't sacrifice himself. He was sacrificed by the Jewish rabbis, according to this book. They didn't like the fact that he was teaching something, that he was basically going against the church. So, this is where the story, anybody who knows history, this is where the story gets completely ass backwards. Number one, they say, oh, well, the Jewish rabbis forced Pontius Pilate, who was a general in the Roman army, to crucify this guy. Because, like I said in my last video, crucifixion is not a Jewish tradition. It is a Roman tradition.
It opens at 11. It's 10:30.
You want to wait and go, or you just want to...
I have to pee, sorry.
We can go into the mall. Anyways.
We don't have very much money. I'm only borrowing 40.
Well, like I said, she said we can use 20 on her card, right?
Yeah.
We can use that 20 to get food.
Or gas.
Well, we have 20 in cash for gas. And I was just going to put 10 in. But, back to the story at hand. This Jesus character, whom everybody says was so meek and mild, who sacrificed himself for our sins, there's no logic behind it, for one. You know, there's no logical reason to sacrifice yourself for people you don't even know. It's like, hey, let's sacrifice one to save billions. But then they contradict themselves, saying, well, if you don't follow God, if you don't believe in God, it doesn't matter if Jesus sacrificed himself for you or not, you're still going to hell. You just want to go in there and go pee?
Did they have a restroom?
Yeah, they got a restroom there. I can wait outside while you do it.
Where's the bathroom?
Should be right over there. Anyway. All this sacrifice crap. No. He sacrificed himself for our sins, blah, blah, blah. He was the lamb, which literally means he was a sacrificial lamb. That's literally what it means. He was the Son of God. Okay, whatever. No, I'll give it to him. Maybe he did exist. Maybe he performed miracles. But that still doesn't mean I should believe this. That still doesn't mean that the ideology of the Christian life and the Catholic life and all these other guys should have anything to do with me. Should have anything to do with anybody. You know, I don't care what you believe. I don't care what you teach your children. But don't force it on me or anybody that, you know, I care about. Let them think for themselves. If they grow up thinking that, hey, maybe this stuff's real, fine. They can believe it. That's their problem, not mine. You know, granted, I honestly don't believe in it because there's no evidence of any of it. Like I said in my last videos. But, hey, it's called blind belief for a reason. Or, sorry, it's called faith. Same thing. But, you know, you see all these people walking around, crucifixes, using God as God gave them a gift, that's why they're doing it. Like, oh, I'm a great boxer. Instead of saying, well, thanks to my trainers and everything. Thank you, God. Like, God came down, put his hands on your hands and said, let there be punching. No. Like, football players do it all the time. Basketball players do it. Actors and actresses do it. Why? Leave your God shit at home. Thank the people that actually helped you. If people would actually use their minds instead of using their blind belief structures. They would probably have an easier life. Like, I'm a good person because I'm a good person. I'm not I'm more, this is the argument that people always tell me. How are you moral if you don't believe in God? So you're telling me that the reason why you're moral, the only reason why you're moral is because you're afraid of a God killing you, basically. A God sending you to hell. So you're moral out of fear and awe of this Almighty. I'm a good moral person just because I choose to be. Who's the more moral person here? The one who's doing it for personal gain, or the one who's doing it because they see it as the right thing to do?
They had a roll of paper towels in there.
How much were they?
I don't know how much they were.
I mean, do you really want paper towels?
No, I mean, if we have toilet paper, it's fine.
Yeah, we have TP. But again, I ask people that. I ask them that all the time. Who's the more moral person here? You can't stand on your moral high ground when the only reason why you're moral is because of the fact that you're scared shitless of going to hell. Which, like I said in some of my other videos, hell is extremely detailed. Heaven is extremely vague. The only thing they could say about heaven, it's good, it's light. But if I want to sleep, can you turn the light off? And if hell is always bad, see, this is where they misconstrue it. When they wrote this book, when they put this thing of books together to make the Bible, I used to joke around and say it meant basic instructions before leaving Earth. That's what Bible meant. Honestly, I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that's actually what it means. But it was funny seeing people's reactions. But if you're sitting there and you're telling me that you have the moral high ground because you have a divine dictator controlling everything you do, you need help. Basically, you have a divine North Korea. You blindly follow and believe this character because you're brainwashed into it. Everybody's like, no, I knew of God since I was born. Really? How's this? If you truly knew of God since the day you were born, if you have a kid, don't say anything about religion or God or anything like that. Don't try to force this shit on your kid, because you guys always do. That's why it's called child indoctrination. Don't force this on your kids. Wait. If they really believe in God, if they really are trying to figure out what God really is, let them ask you. Don't force their asses to go to church like you always do on Sundays. Because no kid wants to go to church on Sundays willingly. I mean, of course, if their parents would say, oh, it's a good thing, of course they're going to want to go. Because you're being led into it. You're basically leading a sheep to the slaughter. And if you're Catholic, you're leading the sheep to getting fucked. It doesn't say anywhere in the Bible, if you want to be closer to God, you got to sever the dick. It says, procreate. It says, feel free to layeth the seed and multiply. So I don't see why a Catholic priest can't have a wife, can't have kids. It's fucking redundant and wrong. Anyway, like I said, don't indoctrinate your kids. Let them decide. If they want to know about religion, they should feel free to ask you. They shouldn't fear asking their parents anything. I mean, granted, there are some questions out there where it's like, I don't know. But more likely than not, your kid should ask you. If it's about religion, if it's about science. And if your kid is asking about science and you're a religious nutbag, give them the truth about science. Not the religious backwash bullshit that you were taught. Better yet, point them in the right direction and make them do their own research. Let them expand their minds. So many kids are told a bunch of bullshit since the day they could even think for themselves, that they don't know what to believe. Like, you have these flat earth people. they go and try to find evidence that doesn't exist, just like religion. They make up this theory, religion. So that's why I compare religion and flat earthers to basically the same thing. And the reason why is because, religious nutbags believe in demons and being possessed and all this crap. And flat earthers believe, well, at least the ones that I've argued with on YouTube, rather, they all believe that the government is a satanic cult, that the Super Bowl halftime show with Shakira and J-Lo was a satanic ritual. They're a bunch of fucking nutbags. These are the kind of guys that probably sit at their house with tinfoil hats on their head saying, oh no, the brainwaves are going to get me. And that's the way I look at religion. I look at religion as a cult. Because you're controlling the minds, you're controlling the advertising, you're strictly indoctrinating these people into what you believe. And a lot of different churches also control what you do with your money. That is literally the definition of a cult. And every church does it. Give money to your church. Bring your children so we can brainwash them too. And see, like I said, my dad's a preacher. Brilliant guy, preacher, whatever. Do whatever you can to make money. I don't give a damn. If you got to make money telling people that the grass is actually green on Mars and the grass on the Earth is purple, and you got to make money doing that, make your money. I don't give a damn. Just don't push it on kids that I know, and just stop indoctrinating children in general. The reason why they do this is because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they don't indoctrinate your children young enough to where their brains are still malleable enough to actually believe in this crap, that their religion's going to go down the toilet. Which it is true. You see it with other religions. Religions that start up and cease to exist. It's because people learn, hey, I'm not bringing my child into this because it's kind of a fucked up thought process. It all is. If they didn't bring, say, for 3 generations, they didn't bring any children into religion, there would be no religion anymore. I almost guarantee that. If they, instead of spent all their money on Bibles and Bible studies and missionaries going across seas to brainwash other people, if they stopped spending all this money on these guys and started spending money on stuff that would actually help humans, like, I don't know, science, physics, astrology, geology, if they would spend money on us, on actual human beings, instead of spending money on an ideology, then we wouldn't have the problems we have today. Hell, chances are coronavirus probably would have never happened if there was no such thing as this crap. If people would stop forcing religion down each other's throat. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming coronavirus on religion. That would be completely ignorant and wrong. But I am saying that a lot of the stuff in history would not have happened. No, like, Granddad's like, oh, well, the Sistine Chapels would have never been painted. And, yeah, it's a beautiful painting. He went where the money was. And at the time, the Catholic Church was the richest place in the planet. They paid him a crap ton of money to put that up there. But, if people didn't spend thousands and thousands of dollars on robes and golden necklaces with a golden crucifix and, Bibles and giving all these preachers and, just, if they didn't spend money on this and they spent money on something that was actually usable, like I said, knowledge would be a great one, then America itself would be great again. And I'm not just punning off of Trump there. Because to be honest, America and the Middle East are like the 2 most religious places in the world.
Can you stop for a second so I can take a picture of this?
Mm-hmm. I'm at a stoplight anyway. But anyway, they're the two most religious places in the world. You know, in the Middle East, they still stone people. They still hack people's heads off. You know, they still believe in the medieval punishment. You know, we don't cut people's heads off. We don't hang people anymore because it's inhumane. Again, it's only inhumane because your religious beliefs say we shouldn't kill people. So if this guy slaughtered 45 people, you're not going to want to kill him? Put him out of everybody else's misery. You know, you got, like, great example, the BTK is still alive. He killed, what, 14 women? Something like that? Jeffrey Dahmer sat in prison for 10 years. You know, who's the one that Zac Efron played?
Ted Bundy.
Ted Bundy sat in prison. They had interviews with him and everything. Which, don't get me wrong, I agree with the studies of, you know, studying the mind of the serial killer so you can catch their asses. And I'm not just making a pun off of one of my favorite TV shows, Criminal Minds. It's an actual science. But I do not believe that these guys deserve a chance to live any longer than they need to. It's like that abortion thing that I was talking about in the last video. Well, not the last one, but a couple videos ago. You know, that's all. Like, people say, "Oh, I'm pro-choice." You know, I don't agree with abortion, but I'm completely okay with the death penalty. That's basically the same thing. You know, the only difference is when you're having an abortion, you're killing an innocent child that didn't do any wrong. You're killing an innocent child because it's inconvenient for you to have it. Because you're a coward, you're a bitch, you're a cunt, you're a douchebag, you're everything that I could think of that's derogatory. That's what you are if you get an abortion for no reason. You know, some people are forced into abortions. Some people that are very close to me are forced into abortions. It's fucked up, but it happens. Again, when it comes to religion, people use their religious ideology to try to control everything. To try to get money out of you. To try to get you to come to their specific church that teaches you the exact same thing that everything else does. They're trying to, depending on what church you go to, fuck your wife or fuck your kids. They're trying to brainwash you into some dumb ideology.
We'll do it until 1:30 or 2 and watch.
You know, if they would stop with the brainwashing, like if they taught it as just a theory instead of truth. See, that's the main thing that gets me about religion. Is they're not saying, oh, this is just a thought. This is just our thoughts. They're saying this is true, this is fact. How do we get truth and fact? We experiment, we research. If it happens to be true from the experiment, then it's true. You can't make an experiment on religion. It's all based on theoretical bullshit that people heard passed down from generation to generation down a campfire. None of these things there's no evidence, there's no way of getting evidence for these. You know, there's nothing for these. There's no evidence of Noah's Ark. There's no evidence of Moses. There's no evidence of, you know, even Jesus being nailed to a cross. There's no evidence of any of it. People blindly believe it because, like I said, they were indoctrinated into it. And most people use religion to get away. Like, they try to use religion to get away from a bad situation. Like, oh, I found religion, so I'm no longer a serial killer. Or, I found religion, that's how I got away from dope. See, my dad is a recovering alcoholic. I think I've said this in one of my videos before. In the 10 steps for AA, one of the main things is to give yourself to a higher power. Which most people, because we live in America, most people think a higher power automatically means the Christian God. And Bob's your uncle, guess what? He's a preacher now. He's a Christian preacher now. Most Christian preachers I've met were either drug addicts, alcoholics, in and out of prison for really fucked up things. Oh, I found religion. So basically what you did is you gave up one bad drug for another bad drug. Because religion will make the smartest person do some of the dumbest shit. I've always said this, I will say it to the day I die. The smartest person in the world, easiest way to get them to do the dumbest shit is quote religion to them. Say, well, it's against your religion if you don't do this. For example, masturbation. There's nothing in the Bible that says nothing about masturbation. Yet they say it's against God. Do you want to? Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah. Anyway. You know, and I call it a drug because that's what it is. It's a drug. You know, even if you go with the psychology route, which, like I said, I've done research on this extensively because religion is the main thing. You can ask my wife. Religion is like the main thing I talk about because it's around me everywhere I go. You can't drive 2 blocks in this city without either seeing a church or cross somewhere. Like, hell, on Main Street, there's a sign says, "We change oil, Jesus changes lives." Just for example. Anyways, this is why I call it a cult. Because, like I said about 10 minutes ago, they control the mind of the masses. They have you blindly following everything in their doctrine. Most of them try to control how much money you give them, how much money you donate to your church, and they try to make you force your kids into it. I mean, they're not going to sit there and say, "Hey, bring your kids in here or else," but they will guilt trip you to do it. Like, one of the main things that religion uses is guilt trip. They bully people into submission. They bully people into believing this crap. You know, great example. When my dad was going through the transition of being recovering alcoholic and opiates to becoming a preacher, we were going to this church, which it was just a Methodist church, but there was a sign out front that said Rethink, so everybody called it the Rethink Church. And the preacher just went with it. Again, the preacher himself, his name was Pastor Rob, brilliant guy. You know, he's got a couple degrees in psychology, so he knows how to psychoanalyze people. He knows how to read people to tell them what they want to hear. So in other words, he's the perfect weapon for religious zealots. But anyway, me and Pastor Rob got along great because I was one of the few people that would walk in there and challenge his doctrine. I was one of the few people that would even go to their meetings and challenge him. He would even ask me when we're at the meetings, "Hey, how can we make this better? You know, he would ask me, even though everybody else would hate me, were disgusted with me, did not want to do anything with me, didn't even want to touch my hand. They're afraid they're going to go up in flames. Douchebags. Anyway, he would ask me, "Hey, what is your idea on this? You know, how do you feel about this certain subject?" And I'd honestly tell him. Like I said, Mom raised me to be honest, even if it hurts. And trust me, sometimes words do seem to offend people to the point to where they cry and bitch. I don't understand why, but it does. Anyway, he would ask me all the time. You know, he'd take me to all these, they call them, like, he told me I'd make a good soldier of God because I fight for what I believe in or lack thereof. You know, there was this one time we went to this place called the Lions Club. Still have no idea why we went, but I think he was bringing me there to try to bring me closer to God. Which, like I said, I was the only one challenging him. I'm sure there were atheists there at the church that went to the church too, but I was the only outspoken one. You know, I've mainly been the only real outspoken atheist that had, you know, besides my cousin, which I'm not going to name him because he's a preacher now, so that would kind of fuck him up. But, no, actually it wouldn't, because he went from being an atheist to being a preacher, so he followed into the indoctrination. Anyway, out of all my friends, out of all the atheists I've met, I'm extremely outspoken about it. Hey, look, undercover. I see you. And everybody's like the video I was making the other day about being oppressed, someone being racist towards you, that just because you're black you're inherently oppressed, just because you're white you're inherently racist. Again, you think I'm inherently racist because I'm white? Fuck you. That's what I gotta say to you. And I will say that to your face if you came up to me and said that. Dork. Anyway, you know, the way I look at it is I don't think every preacher believes everything he's shoving down people's throats. Or in their heads, whatever you want to call it. I honestly don't. Because if you really believed that the book, everything in the book was God's word and God's law, you would be a fucked up, sexist, homophobic, racist son of a bitch. You would be just an utter dick to everyone. Anybody who didn't follow your religion, you wouldn't even associate with. You would do exactly what the Arabic community does, and you would try to kill them. Your wife, and if you had daughters, would be there just for your pleasure. Your daughters would, like, your wife would not be able to talk to anybody else. Your daughter would not be able to talk to anybody else. Your daughter would have to be escorted by a male, no matter how old the male is, they have to be escorted by a male at all times, or they can easily get raped and there's nothing you can do about it. You'd be killing homosexuals left and right, which, trust me, at least in this town, there's a lot of them. You would be trying to kill every other race out there. Because that's what this book promotes. Again, there are churches like the, I think it's called the Westbury one down in Oklahoma. They promote hatred. Those guys need to be disbanded. You know, if one of those fuckers came up to a funeral that I was attending and tried to boycott the funeral, I would knock every one of those fuckers out. It's like they boycott soldiers' funerals. They boycott gay funerals, gay marriages. It's like, dude, they have just as much right to be as miserable as a straight couple is. You know, if they want to get married too, they can get married too. It's like, oh, it's against God. Where does it say in the Bible that it's against God to marry the same sex? It says it's against God's. God frowns upon it. It doesn't say it's against God. People take it too literal. But like I said, if you take the Bible literally, you'd be a sexist, bigoted, fucking piece of shit prick. And you'd probably get shot. You can't just pick and choose. If you believe in one part of the Bible, you gotta believe in the rest. Anyways, that's the end of the Sunday special this week. Mainly because my fat ass is hungry. I'm gonna go in and eat. Y'all have a good day.